in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. The engagement was initially between me and Arthur Go. After father and stepmother discussed the matter, they decided to transfer the marriage arrangement to my younger sister. Father said, Autumn Lynn's personality is truly more suitable. Stepmother added, Master Gu travels far and wide and his horizons are broad. I fear he would not value you. My sister then said, Sister, I am sorry, it is all because I love him too much. Please do not compete with me anymore. My maid advised me to simply accept my fate. A motherless child is all alone, with no one to plan for her future or look out for her interests. However, I refused to accept this. I was determined to fight, determined to seize what was mine. One day before Arthur was scheduled to return, I proactively told them I wanted to go to the temple to pray for blessings. Seeing that I was being so sensible, stepmother was very pleased. But the very next day, I disguised myself as a young man and appeared on the road that Arthur had to pass to enter the city. That road was lined with stalls on both sides, particularly those selling food and drink. I blended into the crowd, but what I was selling was paintings and calligraphy. Borrowing Arthur's name, I shouted loudly to advertise Arthur's travel logs, claiming they contained handwritten notes and illustrations by the master himself, offering an immersive experience where spending 1 copper coin would get you double the value. Arthur is the most outstanding young man of the Gu generation, and despite his youth, he had already received a royal decree to travel everywhere, survey the geography, and record his findings in known as his travel logs. The original manuscripts are stored at the Hanlin Academy, while printed versions circulate widely among the common people. I spent over 10 years studying his interests, painstakingly practicing painting techniques, and I memorized every single one of his travel logs by heart. Just to become a wife worthy of him, I had given my absolute all. I intended to make him like me, to persuade him to take me away from the confines of the inner courtyard, to travel with him across the mountains and rivers of the north and south, and to enjoy the magnificent scenery of our land. So, how could I easily give him up to someone else? Arthur was indeed attracted by the commotion and approached. Beside him was only a young servant, a man approaching 30, with a figure tall and upright like jade and refined features. Although he looked travel-worn, it did not damage his noble and aloof aura, and truth be told, this was the first time we had actually met. Although the engagement was set when we were small, he had followed Mentor Ju to travel the 4 directions since his youth. For me, as well as for my sister, he held no significant affection. Therefore, when the engagement was switched, he simply remarked that marriage was decided by parents and matchmakers, so he had no objections. He reached out to flip through the paintings on the stall. I reached out to block him, saying, Pay first. Xiaoan, his servant, laughed in exasperation and said, What kind of business operates like you? If I say I won't buy, then I won't. These are paintings by Arthur himself. Am I afraid they won't sell? Xiaoan was unconvinced and argued, Just because you say it's his handwriting, does that make it so? Who are you? You dare to use Master Go's name here to scam people. I replied, I won't hide it from you. I am the servant who stays by Master Go's side. When he paints, I am the one who grinds the ink for him. While Xiaoan and I were arguing, Arthur had quietly begun to look through the paintings. From the corner of my eye I saw his eyes light up, his cold demeanor gradually softened, and a faint smile hovered at the corner of his lips. Xiaoan was stomping his feet in anger at me, pulling me and threatening to go to the magistrate. I rolled up the paintings, turned around, and ran. Arthur and his servant immediately gave chase. Arthur called out loudly, Little brother, who painted this? I did not catch that. He had long legs and arms, so he caught up very quickly, reaching out to grab me, but he accidentally pulled my hair tie. My long hair cascaded down, and I turned my head in panic, dropping the paintings all over the ground. Arthur froze and Xiaoan cried out, It is a young lady. I took the opportunity to run away, deliberately leaving a mess of paintings behind me. My appearance is delicate and elegant, but amidst the capital where beauties are as common as clouds, I am not particularly outstanding. Furthermore, Arthur has traveled north and south, and the women he has met are as numerous as schools of fish in the river. Under normal circumstances, I fear he would not have paid me any mind. But with this encounter, he surely etched my image into his heart. I stayed in the temple for 3 days. During those 3 days, the Guo family held a welcome banquet for Arthur and arranged for him to meet my sister. The day I returned to the manor, my sister was beaming with joy. She told me, Brother Gu is truly handsome beyond compare. I have never seen a man with such a beautiful appearance. Why did you have your eye on Arthur? It was merely that one year. A brief encounter led to love at first sight. She is the treasure in our parents' hands, the pearl in their eyes. Whatever she wants, our parents pour out all their efforts to bring it before her. In contrast, I remained silent. She seemed to suddenly remember something and hurriedly covered her mouth, saying, "Oh, sorry sister, I forgot he used to be your fiancé. You must be very upset right now." I still said nothing. She suddenly teared up and said, "Sister, have you still not forgiven me?" Her face changed faster than flipping the page of a book, and I almost laughed. She cried and ran to stepmother to snitch, saying that I held a grudge because she stole Arthur, so I refused to speak to her. Stepmother questioned me in front of father, asking, "Just for a man, you turn against your own flesh and blood. Is this the upbringing of our Lin family? If this spreads, how will people look at our family?" I looked up at her, my expression cold. So what? What does mother expect me to do? Happily congratulate my sister? I apologize, but I do not have such a magnanimous heart. My stepmother froze for a moment, as clearly just a few days ago I had proactively avoided suspicion and went to the temple to pray without showing any resentment. She turned to father, shedding tears, and said, "It is because I did not teach Summer Lin well that she learned to be two-faced like this. I was born in the summer, so I was named Summer. My sister was born in the autumn, named Autumn, yet the one who possesses a life as brilliant as summer flowers is her." Father knocked over his teacup and raged at me. "Does this mean everything you showed before was fake?" Of course it was fake. He wanted me to endure and compromise, to not cause trouble, to not fight so he could maintain the facade of a harmonious family. As for how many losses I suffered, or how many grievances I bore, he pretended not to know. Because of my disrespectful attitude, father punished me by making me kneel in the ancestral hall to reflect on my mistakes. I knelt for 2 whole days, and although someone brought rice, I did not eat a single bite, only drinking a few sips of soup. On the 3rd day, the nanny beside stepmother called me out to receive guests, not allowing me to comb my hair or change my clothes, leaving me disheveled. With a haggard complexion, I was led directly to the front hall. Father frowned as soon as he saw me. Stepmother said helplessly, "This child, I told you there is no need for you to marry. Why do you intentionally make yourself look so unkempt?" I looked up and saw Arthur and his mother. They had come to discuss the marriage. When he saw my appearance clearly, he showed visible shock. I also managed to show a bit of surprise. Madame Gu was angry and said, "Miss Lin, rest assured, our Gu family is not the type to pester endlessly." How ridiculous. Usually, I was extremely respectful to her. I had embroidered handkerchiefs and scent pouches for her, and asked many questions about Arthur's preferences. She clearly knew it wasn't that I didn't want to marry, yet she was still willing to cooperate with stepmother to put on this act. She told Arthur that it was I who wanted to break the engagement. Arthur did not care who he married, and he was too lazy to investigate the truth. If the engagement was broken, then it was broken. Marrying anyone was the same to him. Father glanced at me, his eyes containing a warning. He was afraid I would cause trouble, but stepmother was not afraid. The louder the commotion the better, as it would make me look like a clown performing on stage. Autumn whispered, "Sister, don't be angry, we don't blame you." I rolled my eyes and fainted on the spot. Arthur caught me in time, and I fell into his arms, smelling the clean, clear scent of cedar wood on him, for he knew a little medicine. He checked my pulse, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. "The eldest Miss Lin has fainted from starvation." I really did faint. When I woke up, I was lying on a bed covered with a brocade quilt. Outside the door, the intermittent sounds of an argument between father and stepmother drifted in. "Did you not let anyone bring food to her?" Father questioned angrily. My stepmother replied, "I did 3 meals a day without fail. If you don't believe me, then why did she faint from hunger? How was I to know? Did you want the Lin family to have a reputation for mistreating the daughter of the first wife?" The arguing suddenly stopped, footsteps approached from afar, and then the door was pushed open. Arthur walked in carrying a bowl, with father and stepmother following behind him. I was a little surprised that he had not left yet. Seeing me awake, he said, "You have been hungry for too long, your stomach won't be able to handle other foods. I cooked a bowl of noodle broth for you. Get up and drink some to regain your strength." As he spoke, he sat down by my bed, scooped up the broth, blew on it gently, looking as if he intended to feed me. I sat up and glanced at father and stepmother. Stepmother's face was extremely unsightly. Father said, "Son-in-law, I fear this is not in accordance with proper etiquette." Arthur brought the spoon to my mouth, his voice indifferent. A fiancé and fiancée caring for each other. What is improper about that? I looked at him in surprise, while stepmother's face was thunderous. What do you mean by that? You two have already annulled the engagement. The spoon of soup was right at my lips, radiating warmth and a delicious smell, and indeed I had been hungry for a very long time, so I couldn't help but open my mouth. After I finished drinking, Arthur offered another spoon and asked in return, when was it annulled? It was merely a change of person, not an annulment. The original engagement was just a verbal agreement with an exchange of tokens. We never wrote a proper marriage contract, nor did we register it at the government office. That is why switching the bride was so convenient. You only needed to notify me, snatch the token from my hand, and it was done. But they never expected that Arthur would refuse to accept the arrangement. I drank 3 or 4 spoons of the noodle broth, and my body gradually regained some strength, so I reached out to take the bowl, held it in my lap, and slowly drank it all. Stepmother was furious and said, "Arthur, do you treat the daughters of the Lin family like cabbages in the field, for you to pick and choose as you please?" Arthur's expression remained calm as he said, "Either I marry Summer, or this marriage is considered cancelled." Father hurriedly said, "Son-in-law, think it over a little more, no need to be rash." Stepmother was so angry she flung her sleeves and left. Father's gaze lingered on my face for a moment before he also chased after her. Only Arthur and I remained in the room. He looked at me and said, "Those paintings were done by you?" "Yes." What I left for him were illustrations from the travel logs of his early years, traveling in Liangji and Huizhou. I was young then, and with a maiden's secret affection, I secretly hid the character for Summer within the paintings. With his intellect, it was not hard to spot. The moment he saw me in the front hall, he had guessed that I was the painter. "I like them very much," he said. I had to try very hard to show a little shyness. "It is good that you like them, but why did you sell them?" I was silent for a moment, then said, "Keeping them is useless." He asked, "Are there any more?" I raised my eyes, looked past the floor-standing screen, and my gaze stopped on a bookshelf packed tightly with books nearby. He walked over, shocked by the shelves full of books, pulled one out at random, and his eyes revealed clear appreciation. "Summer." He looked at me. "Don't sell them anymore. Keep them as your dowry." After Arthur left, Autumn stormed into my room. She looked at me with a venomous gaze and said, "I really didn't expect you to be so shameless. You dare to steal your own sister's fiancé." I feigned surprise. "So stealing a sister's fiancé is called shameless? Then you have misunderstood. I do not call this stealing, but returning the item to its original owner. The shameless person, from beginning to end, is only you." She was so angry she lunged at me and slapped me straight in the face. My body had not yet recovered, and I did not have the strength to fight back, so I just looked at her coldly and said, "Remember this, I will definitely return this slap." She sneered, "You are overestimating your own abilities." Father walked in, holding the engagement token of the Go and Lin families in his hand. It was a lustrous white jade pendant, and Autumn could not believe her eyes. Father coaxed her. "Another day your mother and I will find you someone better. Arthur is so much older than you." Autumn refused to accept it and started crying and making a scene. "I only want Brother Gu. Other than Brother Gu I will not marry anyone." Father lost his patience and yelled at her, crying and making a racket. "What kind of behavior is this? Why are you so unreasonable? How did your mother teach you?" Autumn was almost stunned. From childhood to adulthood, Father had never said a heavy word to her, yet today he yelled at her. I curled my lips sarcastically. Why is this scene so familiar? Since we were small, whenever Autumn and I had a conflict, regardless of who was right or wrong, the one who was admonished and blamed was always me. A stepmother protecting her own daughter is nothing worth mentioning, but what about my father? He only knew how to scold me for not understanding the situation, for not knowing how to yield, and for refusing to suffer a small loss. He was busy all day and already tired, yet I still bothered him with these trivial matters. Gradually I understood that in this house, no one would stand up and advocate for me. Autumn pushed Father away hard, crying loudly, "I hate you, I hate you." Then she ran out. Father returned the jade pendant to me. Full of confusion he asked, "Why did Arthur have his eye on you?" Clearly, a few days ago when he met Autumn, he showed no dissatisfaction. I looked at Father and smiled. Perhaps Master Gu cannot bring himself to commit a breach of faith and unrighteousness. He still knows what a sense of shame is. Father's face immediately turned crimson red. Stepmother wanted to withdraw the marriage with the Gu family, as she could not swallow this anger, but father was reluctant. Arthur and the current emperor studied under the same mentor, their friendship is deep. He travels on royal orders, using public funds to survey the mountains and rivers on behalf of the emperor, who cannot go personally. He is a close minister of the emperor, and it was thanks to the engagement with Arthur that father, the future father-in-law, was promoted from a small, insignificant official to the position of vice minister of the court of imperial sacrifices that he holds today. He and stepmother had an earth-shaking argument. Stepmother is usually very dominant, and on the surface, it looks like she decides everything big and small in the household, but as long as father is firm, she ultimately has to bow to the man of the house. I ate my fill for 2 days straight, and my body gradually recovered. However, the story of me being starved to the point of fainting by my harsh stepmother spread outside. People pointed at stepmother behind her back, and as soon as she returned to the manor, she slapped me. You truly have a wicked heart. Your father and I didn't fuss with you, yet you aired the family's dirty laundry outside. You don't even care about the reputation and face of the Lin family anymore. Father and Autumn were both present. I did not delay for even a second, and with a backhand, I slapped her back twice. Stepmother was dizzy from the blows, taking a long time to regain her composure, shaking with anger. You dare to hit me? I am your mother, I said calmly. Then go to the magistrate and accuse me of unfilial conduct. Make a big deal out of it so the whole capital knows the Lin family bullies a motherless child. Let the Lin family become the laughingstock of the entire capital. A Pyrrhic victory where you hurt yourself almost as much as you hurt me. I did not care, but stepmother did not dare, and father would not allow it. He looked at me in horror, as if he was meeting me for the first time. Stepmother gritted her teeth and said, Truly, silent dogs bite the hardest. I have really underestimated you all these years. I replied, Thank you for the compliment. I looked over at Autumn, and she actually took a step back in fear. I thought that since I hit her mother, she would rush up to fight me desperately, but it turns out she is just the type to bully the weak and fear the strong. Arthur's mother came to visit me, bringing a lot of tonics. She held my hand smiling kindly, saying, This child Summer, I have liked her since she was small, as if the unpleasant incidents of a few days ago never existed. This is the attitude of the Gu family within the home. Arthur's words have always carried significant weight. I lowered my eyes and let her hold my hand, a gentle smile hanging on my lips, enjoying the feeling of borrowing a man's hand to fight my battles. This feeling is truly refreshing. The wedding between me and Arthur was set for 2 months later. My stepmother stepped up to arrange my dowry. My biological mother had left very little for a dowry. Stepmother only did the bare minimum. She told me, Do you think Arthur can have your back? He only stays in the capital for half a year, and then he travels everywhere again, while you have to stay and wait upon your parents-in-law. Gus, what, do you really think Madame Go actually likes you? She laughed at my pain. If it were originally Autumn marrying over there, with me speaking up for her, Madame Go certainly wouldn't make things difficult for the young couple, nor let them be separated. But now it is hard to say. From ancient times, a mother-in-law wanting to torment a daughter-in-law never lacks methods. Do you think you will live a comfortable life? I looked at her quietly. She was jealous. She gritted her teeth. Don't think you have one. If it weren't for the fact that you and Autumn are sisters, I would have ruined your reputation long ago, making it impossible for you to marry anyone in your life. I am different. I tell you I will spare no cost to destroy you both, dragging everyone down to hell with me, no matter the price. My eyes were cold and rippled, looking straight at her. She was frightened and stumbled back. I continued slowly, word by word. The barefoot are not afraid of those wearing shoes. You should feel lucky that the marriage has returned to my hands. Stepmother and I were not like water and fire from the very beginning. When she first married into the Lin family, I was only 3 years old. At that time, she had no children and was willing to put effort into caring for me. It was only later, when Autumn was born, that she no longer had the energy to manage me. The servants in the house swayed with the wind, and my days became incredibly difficult. I once told her, but in her eyes and heart there was only Autumn. She paid no mind to my affairs, so I had to speak to father. It happened that father had a guest. To save face, he reprimanded stepmother. scolding her for not managing the household strictly. However, as soon as the guest left, he scolded me, calling me selfish and ignorant. From then on, my stepmother held a grudge against me. When an adult deliberately makes things difficult for a child, nothing is impossible. She didn't even need to speak directly. There were always servants with keen senses ready to act on her behalf, making new clothes but deliberately leaving me out, delivering soup and rice that was stone cold, simple and meager food, and the maids in my courtyard were changed every few days. When I was sick, I couldn't even get a cup of hot water. Unable to bear it, I went to father to complain, but immediately countless servants stood up to testify, claiming I was difficult to please and deliberately causing trouble. Father basically didn't investigate, nor did he care to. He scolded me once and considered it done. Later, Autumn gradually grew up. She seemed born knowing who was the weakest in this house, carrying a subtle malice, bullying and provoking me time and again. I used to resist, but in return, I only got a slap from stepmother, a scolding from father, and an increasingly worse situation. So I learned to endure, to appear weak, and even to bow my head. My stepmother thought I was a lamb, so now that I revealed my claws before her, she was afraid. She even warned Autumn not to provoke me. But I thought I still owed Autumn a slap, and since I was about to marry into the Gu family, I took the initiative to find her and cause trouble. Before looking for Autumn, I rummaged through my jewelry box and took out the bracelet my mother left me. The jade quality wasn't particularly good, but over the long years, as I frequently caressed it, it gradually revealed a certain luster. Autumn was planning to go out and had walked into the garden when I blocked her path. She glanced at me suspiciously. I said nothing, just looked at her coldly. If it were before, she would have lost patience long ago and pushed me aside, but now she held back, aggrievedly moving a step to the left. I followed suit and moved a step to the left. She dodged to the right, and I immediately stepped behind her. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and reached out to push me. "Summer, are you sick?" I took the opportunity to fall, my wrist hitting the ground hard. The bracelet broke into 3 pieces, and my eyes immediately turned red. "Sister, I just wanted to talk to you properly. Why did you push me?" This was the only relic my mother left me. My eyes filled with tears. Autumn was stunned, even briefly doubting herself. She said, "Clearly it was you first, you are too much." I cut her off sternly, stood up, and slapped her twice very quickly. "I knew you did it on purpose. Before, you also deliberately threw the hairpin I liked into the water." Autumn froze for a moment before reacting. "You dare to hit me?" She was dizzy with anger, forgetting that I dared to slap even her mother, let alone her. She raised her hand to hit back. I was prepared. One hand grabbed her wrist tight, the other was free, and I seized the chance to slap her 2 more times. She was so angry she wanted to go mad, lunging at me to fight desperately. We rolled on the ground, and I ended up pinned under her. She laughed triumphantly, raising her hand high. "Summer, I'll beat you to death." "What are you doing?" A shout rang out, and immediately after, Autumn was pushed away by someone, while I was helped up from the ground. It was Arthur who arrived just in time. "Are you all right?" he asked anxiously. Autumn hurriedly explained. "It was she who hit me first." She pointed out the red marks on her face to him, which were very distinct. I said not a word, broke free from Arthur's embrace, and my gaze swept across the ground. The bracelet broken into 3 pieces was incredibly glaring. I ran over, carefully picking them up, tears falling drop by drop. This is the only keepsake my mother left me. I looked up at Autumn, hiding none of the hatred in my heart. Why do you treat me like this?" Obviously, Autumn didn't expect me to turn the tables, but the fact that she broke my bracelet was true, and her usual bullying of me was also true. Even if she had 100 mouths, she couldn't argue her way out. She could only stammer an explanation. It was her who blocked my way first. Blocking the way and then pushing someone only made her look more unreasonable. I didn't argue with her. After wiping my tears, I turned to leave. Arthur chased after me, "Miss Lynn." He pulled my sleeve. I turned to look at him, suppressing my tears. "2 women fighting over you. You must be very proud, aren't you?" "Huh, Arthur." I called his name directly. In this life, I can only be confined to the inner courtyard, but if I were a man, I would absolutely not lose to you. He looked at me in shock. I closed my eyes briefly, then opened them, restoring my usual gentleness. "I apologize, I lost my composure. This bracelet is very important to me. Do you know any skilled craftsman who can repair it?" He nodded with a complicated expression. I then used a handkerchief to wrap the bracelet and handed it to him. "I will trouble you then." After walking a few steps, I stopped again, turned to look at him still standing in the same spot. "Follow me," I said awkwardly. "Sorry, I forgot. Today we agreed to look at paintings together." He smiled slightly. "You finally remembered. Let's forget about today, I can see you are in no mood. Let's do it another day." I nodded and turned around, but he suddenly called me back. "Summer, I will not let you be trapped in the inner courtyard." A little later, father and stepmother also learned of the matter. Autumn went to snitch, and she was truly wronged. On the surface, it looked like she had the upper hand, but in reality, she was the only one who got beaten. Not to mention I was the one who actively provoked her first. However, father didn't really believe her words, and furthermore, he didn't want to create more trouble right when I was about to get married. He lectured Autumn. "Who told you to break her bracelet? Serves you right." Autumn was aggrieved to death. I was called by my stepmother for questioning. Naturally, I didn't admit to anything. Stepmother looked at me, but her words were directed at Autumn. "Rest assured, mother won't let you suffer this grievance in vain." My bracelet was repaired. It wasn't a rare item originally, so the craftsman didn't need much effort. Arthur came to pick me up to retrieve the bracelet, and we took the opportunity to stroll outside a bit. We ate at a restaurant, but my stomach felt uncomfortable, aching and bloating intermittently. He thought the restaurant's food wasn't fresh and intended to settle the score with them, but I stopped him. "It is just an old ailment. I had rarely eaten hot meals since childhood." He froze. I smiled at him. "My courtyard is out of the way, far from the kitchen, so by the time the food arrives it is already cold." He looked suspicious, but after thinking for a moment, he understood. "Has it always been like this?" His voice trembled slightly. It was hard to imagine that a child living in her own home couldn't even get a hot meal. I gave a soft and then pretended to speak lightly. "Actually, I just needed to secretly give the older servants delivering the food some silver and tell them to be a bit faster, then I could eat hot rice. It is just that I couldn't bear to part with the money. My winnings were all saved to buy paper, brushes, and paint." Arthur felt pained. I am indeed the type of girl who easily evokes heartache in others, beautiful, talented, yet so pitiful. He reached out to hold my hand, promising solemnly, "In the future, such things will never happen again." I drank a whole pot of hot water, but the pain not only didn't subside, it made my face turn pale, cold sweat pouring out. Arthur's meager medical knowledge couldn't diagnose anything specific. In a panic, he took me to a nearby medical clinic. The doctor checked my pulse several times before saying, "She has been poisoned." Arthur was stunned. I was also stunned. The doctor continued, "This is a slow-acting poison. It takes about 2 months from ingestion to onset. Usually, there are no symptoms, but when it flares up, it looks like a sudden illness, and life is lost within 3 or 4 days. The young lady is lucky. The stomach medicine she takes daily contains an ingredient that conflicts with this poison, which is why it fired up in the early stages." He prescribed an antidote for me. Inside the clinic, I still maintained my composure, looking normal. But as soon as we walked out, my legs went soft, and my whole body trembled uncontrollably. The 2-month timeline was too sensitive. 2 months later, I would be marrying Arthur. If I suddenly fell ill and died a few days before the wedding, Autumn could legitimately take my place. My face was pale, my body shaking, unable to take a single step. I had to hold on to Arthur to barely stand. "Why?" I looked at him in panic. "Aren't we family? What heinous crime have I committed that they want me dead?" He squeezed my hand tight. "Don't be afraid, I am here." Obviously, I couldn't return to the Lynn Manor. Staying at the Goo Manor wasn't practical, and an inn was even less of an option. Arthur thought for a moment and had an idea. He took me into the palace and asked the Empress to take care of me temporarily for a few days. The unfamiliar environment and the awe of imperial authority made me uneasy. At parting, I held onto his sleeve, reluctant to let go. He comforted me. "Don't worry, Her Majesty is a very gentle person." Then he added, "It won't be long. Wait for me to resolve everything, then I will come to pick you up." I asked, "Resolve it how? Since they dared to do it, it won't be easy for us to find evidence, and father won't allow us to take the matter to court." He laughed. "Silly girl, there are some things that don't need evidence." True to Arthur's words, the Empress was indeed an extremely gentle person. She was only 3 years older than me and put on no airs, even complaining to me like a girl next door that the wet nurses wouldn't let her eat too many pastries. Later, when the Emperor came to visit, he secretly brought her a packet of snacks. The two of them avoided the wet nurses and eunuchs, hiding by the wall to eat secretly, and even told me to keep watch. I said admiringly. Your Majesties have such a good relationship. The emperor smiled dotingly. You don't know, although your empress is the mother of the nation, she is actually a little glutton. The empress immediately reached out to tickle him. The two joked around for a long time. After the emperor left, the smile on the empress's face faded, and she said lazily, how tiring. I didn't dare ask much, but I understood a little in my heart. The emperor has 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, 72 concubines. The one he has feelings for isn't just the empress alone. The empress waved me over, and I walked to her side. She said, you and Arthur are the couple that makes people envious. In all these years, you are the first girl he has brought into the palace. I smiled shyly, but a moment later revealed a look of melancholy. It is a pity he travels year-round. After we marry, I must stay to serve my parents-in-law and cannot be by his side all the time. Beside him is only a young servant boy, and there is no one who knows how to care for his needs. The empress laughed. What is difficult about that? I stayed in the palace for 5 days. 5 days later, Arthur came to pick me up. Men have men's ways of handling problems. He didn't even confront stepmother. While she was out, he searched her room and found a packet of poison, then used it to convict her through my father. Actually, if he investigated a bit deeper, he would have discovered that the poison in stepmother's room and the poison I was afflicted with were basically not the same thing. The medicine in her room would only ruin one's appearance, not take a life. She indeed wanted Autumn to take my place in the marriage, but she didn't have the guts to kill anyone yet. Arthur's intention was that the wedding between him and me was imminent, and he didn't want to create side issues. Therefore, there was no need to tell her that her poisoning attempt had been exposed. She could continue to arrange the wedding as usual. It was just that, in the bird's nest soup she drank every day, an extra ingredient would be added. I originally thought father wouldn't agree. After all, he and stepmother still had some affection. Unexpectedly, Arthur didn't even need to offer any tangible benefits, only mentioning he would put in a good word for him in front of the emperor. Father immediately agreed hastily. I returned home, bringing with me a whole cart of rewards from the empress. Father smiled until he bloomed, his eyes looking at me with a gentleness never seen before. Autumn's eyes were red with greed, her covetous gaze sweeping over the jewelry and treasures, finally stopping on stepmother. Just like before, whatever she could snatch, she snatched directly. What she couldn't snatch openly, she let stepmother snatch for her. But this time stepmother said, since these are rewards from Her Majesty, just add them to the dowry for Summer to take to the Gu family. Autumn looked at stepmother in disbelief. If he didn't know stepmother was planning to let Autumn take my place, father might have had to praise her for being virtuous and generous at this moment. It is a pity that he and I both understood clearly in our hearts. Only Autumn, when father and I had walked far away, could still be heard raging at stepmother. Mother, what is wrong with you? Why are you thinking for Summer? Perhaps stepmother couldn't calm Autumn down, so she told her about the plan to swap the bride. In short, when I saw Autumn again, she had restored her arrogant and domineering demeanor, and her gaze towards me even vaguely revealed a look of pity. Summer, she said, a motherless child is truly pitiful. You will never know to what extent my mother can go for me. Slap. I slapped her straight across the face. She was stunned, both angry and anxious. Hey, are you sick? I only said one sentence. I didn't provoke you or break your things. I said, this slap is payback for 4 years ago. At that time, you held a banquet in the manor for the noble ladies. When they praised me for being virtuous and clever, you became jealous and deliberately tripped me, causing me to fall into the pond. She was dazed for a moment. You still remember something from so long ago? I sneered. I remember things from even longer ago. From the very first time you bullied me, you were only 4 years old then. You ate all your own tanghalu and wanted more. Your mother was afraid you would ruin your teeth, and refused to buy another, so you came to rob mine. Clearly, stepmother didn't want you to eat more. But when you snatched mine and I refused to give it, stepmother scolded me for not knowing how to love my sibling and being selfish, then snatched the tangalu from my hand to give to you. You took 2 bites and then complained of a toothache. Stepmother hurriedly coaxed you. Meanwhile, the tanghalu I couldn't bear to eat, having carefully eaten only 1 hawthorn, was casually thrown onto the ground by you. It still looked bright red and shiny, but the underside was covered in dirt. Such a distant event, Autumn naturally didn't remember. She looked at me as if looking at a monster. Why do you hold grudges for so long? I said. Before I marry, Every time you appear in front of me, I will hit you once. I will claim back every single slap." She was frightened, retreating to the door, and screamed at me. "Summer, you won't be smug for long. I tell you, everything of yours is mine. You will forever be trampled under my feet." The wedding day was fast approaching, yet I remained healthy and lively, without even a single red spot on my face. Stepmother thought the dosage was not strong enough or hadn't taken effect yet, so she secretly increased the amount. She did not know that the poison in her room had long since been ground into yam powder by Arthur. As for the original poison, it had fallen into Father's hands, and then I swapped it for a different kind of poison, adding it bit by bit into her bird's nest soup every day. Autumn was even more anxious than her mother, sending young maids to the front of my courtyard every day to spy for news. Arthur came once to ask me for illustrated travel logs, saying he wanted to bring them to show the emperor. "I promised you," he said, "I will not confine you to the inner courtyard. If the emperor is pleased after seeing them, I will ask for a decree to appoint you as a female official. In the future, I will write travel logs and you will paint. Husband sings and wife follows. We will be free and unfettered, never to be parted." My heart trembled slightly, swept up by immense joy. Really, truer than gold. I was so happy I almost jumped up. To be a female official, that was something I never dared to imagine. I still thought the best outcome would merely be following him outside under the guise of taking care of him. I didn't expect that even after marriage I could still be myself. He was truly paving the way for me. "Arthur, thank you." I stepped forward and hugged him, then quickly let go and stepped back to create distance. Even so, my face turned red and I couldn't hide it. He was flattered, the corners of his lips curving up slightly. "Between you and me, there is no need for thanks." Stepmother and Autumn ultimately could not wait for the day I was disfigured. On the wedding day, seeing stepmother so anxious that her mouth was covered in blisters, I knelt down and kowtowed to thank her. "Thank you, mother, for arranging everything so thoroughly for me." She had originally thought the one marrying would be Autumn, so on top of the original betrothal gifts, she grit her teeth and added more than half of her own private assets. Now, everyone in the capital praised her for being virtuous and kind. She was sick with regret. "I have no brothers." When leaving the house, it was Autumn who supported me. She gripped my arm tightly, wishing she could snap it. Through the veil, I whispered softly, "Did you think I would be disfigured, and in the end, you would be the one marrying over there?" Her steps faltered. "You are truly stupid, believing whatever mother says. Poisoning, switching brides. It was all her lying to you. Think about it. If she truly cared for you, why would she indulge you so much from childhood? Have you ever heard of killing by spoiling?" Her whole body trembled. "You are talking nonsense. She is my mother." I laughed softly. "But she has already given me more than half of her assets, haven't you heard? Where the money is, the love is." "That is because she wanted you to believe that. Precisely so you wouldn't cause trouble. Look, you indeed didn't cause trouble." She stopped completely, her grip tightening even more. I continued, "Whatever you do, don't lose your composure. You only have this bit of reputation left. If even your reputation is lost, what decent family could you marry into in the future?" She started walking again, and I heard her sobbing. She was not a person of deep schemes, so how could she bear such a sudden blow? The guests all said the sisters of the Lin family had deep affection for each other. The elder sister was marrying, and the younger sister cried until her tears fell like rain. Just after Arthur and I finished bowing to heaven and earth, the imperial decree from the palace arrived. In the decree, the emperor praised me to the high heavens, and finally changed his tone, appointing Summer as an external court lady of the 5th rank to travel the world on behalf of the empress. Arthur represented the emperor, and I represented the empress. Such honor and favor were no ordinary matter. In an instant, the great hall was filled with congratulations. Only Madame Gou's smile was uglier than crying. She had even planned to discipline me and set rules for me. After enduring for 7 days, she finally couldn't take it anymore. That day, while Arthur was out, she sent someone to summon me to serve her lunch. Unexpectedly, just at that moment, someone from the Lin family suddenly came to report. Stepmother had suddenly fallen ill, her condition was critical, and it looked like she wouldn't make it. Madame Gou was also panicked and accompanied me back to the Lin manor. Stepmother lay on the bed, motionless. The old servant attending her wiped away tears and said, "She was fine yesterday, but when she woke up this morning, she was like this." We invited several doctors, but they all said there is no hope. I asked, "Where is father?" I heard he went to the palace to find an imperial physician. What about the second miss? She cried until she fainted and is lying in the side room. After all, that was her biological mother, over 10 years of mother-daughter bond. Although she had listened to my instigation before, once she calmed down, coupled with stepmother's explanation, she must have understood that I was tricking her. Madame Go, feeling it was bad luck, stood far away to look at stepmother briefly before leaving. I ordered someone to cook a bowl of ginseng soup and fed it to stepmother spoonful by spoonful. Her lips were tightly closed, so I had to use the spoon to pry them open gently to pour a little in. After feeding her one bowl, I was covered in sweat. The servant standing outside the door whispered, "The eldest miss treats Madame so well, even a biological daughter could only do so much." Indeed, Madame usually treated her like that, yet she holds no grudge. The second miss only knows how to cry, truly useless. Stepmother woke up. I personally wiped her hands and face, gentle to the extreme. However, stepmother looked as if she had seen a ghost. Her complexion, already bad, turned even more ashen. It is you," she said. I bent down and gently arranged her hair. "It is not me, it is father. He has known about you poisoning me for a long time. He despises your wicked heart and wants you to make room for someone else." "You are talking nonsense. The younger sister of the Viceroy of Liangguang. Do you still remember? She has her eye on father. Although she has been married twice, her brother is capable, so even as a remarried widow, plenty of people are fighting to marry her." Stepmother froze for a moment. Perhaps she remembered that the Viceroy's sister had indeed visited the manor frequently of late. "Father knew early on that you would die. Every night, he personally brought you the bird's nest soup. Was it delicious?" Stepmother suddenly understood, gasping for breath, then abruptly leaned over the edge of the bed and spat out a mouthful of blood. I took a handkerchief and gently wiped it for her. "Mother, you must hang on. Before, I lived precariously under your hand. Now it is your daughter's turn to live precariously under someone else's. But mother, don't worry too much. Sister has reached marriageable age. I wonder what kind of family our new mother will choose for her." I smiled. She stared at me with venomous eyes, a raspy rattling sound coming from her throat. I whispered, "It is a pity. Father will live for a very long time. Who knows, the new mother might even give birth to a few more younger brothers and sisters for us." She raised her hand intending to hit me, but struggled to lift it mid-air before it fell down in exhaustion. "You can hardly speak, let alone hit someone." I patted her face gently. "So I say, if you had let me marry Arthur smoothly back then, wouldn't everything be fine?" I looked after stepmother for 2 days and 2 nights, constantly ordering people to cook ginseng soup to feed her. When tired, I would rest my head by the bed for a nap. Father never came to visit from beginning to end, and the so-called imperial physician was never invited. Autumn only knew how to cry. When told to feed ginseng soup to her mother, she poured it all down her collar. The eldest young miss, whose 10 fingers never touched spring water, didn't know how to serve others at all. Arthur pitied me, saying I was too honest. I shed tears. Although I know she is not a good person, thinking that she is about to die, I still feel very uncomfortable in my heart. "Clearly it is not our fault. You are just too kind," Arthur said. He had people spread rumors outside that I was the reincarnation of a lucky star. Before I married, stepmother was safe and healthy. As soon as I got married, my stepmother fell ill. The doctors all said she wouldn't make it, but because I served her for 2 days, she lived for 2 extra days. On the 3rd day, stepmother experienced terminal lucidity, her complexion was much better, and her body had some strength. She even ate half a bowl of wontons, so I hurriedly sent someone to find father. My stepmother looked at me with hidden meaning. I said, "I gave you the opportunity, whether you can grasp it or not depends on your ability." She said, "I didn't expect you to be so cruel." I smiled. "Thank you." She looked at me for a long time before saying, "Can you promise me one thing? Don't target Autumn anymore. Out of pity for her, find her a stable family to marry into. She was only spoiled rotten by me. She doesn't have a bad heart. Without me, she wouldn't dare fight you for anything. Actually, she didn't want me to have my way, but she had no better option." I nodded. When Autumn was born, I was once overjoyed. She also used to lift her chubby face and call me sister, in a childish voice. It is a pity that later everything changed. Father took a very long time to return. I was really worried stepmother couldn't hold on, but she seemed to be holding back one last breath, her mind unusually clear. Upon seeing father, she said she wanted to speak a few private words with him, so she ordered all of us out. The servants went about their duties, and I stood guard at the door. Autumn didn't understand the situation, and thought her mother was getting better, so she happily intended to return to her own courtyard. Afraid she wouldn't even see her mother's face for the last time, I stopped her and directed her to rest in a side room. She was a bit afraid of me now, so although she was unwilling, she didn't dare leave and stood there with a dark face. From inside the room came the sound of quiet conversation, indistinguishable. A long time later, suddenly a short scream rang out, accompanied by the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. I looked up at the sky. The sun had risen, the golden light shining on people's faces, incredibly warm. I pushed the door open lightly and walked in, then closed it again. Father was lying on the ground, a dagger plunged into his chest. It was stabbed very deep, but there wasn't much blood flowing, only pooling into a dark red patch. He still had a breath left. Seeing me, he looked like he saw a savior. Summer, Summer, save father, he gasped, his face twisted in pain, as pale as a sheet of paper. I stood and watched for a while, feeling a bit dissatisfied, so I approached, bent down, and pulled the dagger out a little bit. Blood immediately sprayed out, and in just a moment, his lower body was dyed red. He was in so much pain he couldn't speak a complete sentence, nearly fainting. "You rebellious daughter." I stepped back, wiped away a tear that didn't exist, and slowly said, "Father and mother's deep affection is truly moving. To think it would reach the point of living and dying together." Stepmother, half hanging off the bed, heard this and laughed out loud, laughing a few times before coughing violently. "Autumn, Autumn, my daughter." She looked towards the door. I shouted loudly, "Someone come. Someone come. Father has committed suicide for love. Come quickly." The first to arrive was Autumn. She rushed in from the side room, saw father lying in a pool of blood, rolled her eyes, and fainted, truly useless. Stepmother let out a miserable scream, couldn't catch her breath, and passed away just like that. Father stared with wide eyes, dying with grievance. Later, I told outsiders the following: father loved mother deeply, and couldn't bear for her to go alone. So he stabbed himself, saying he would wait for her in the Yellow Springs, telling her not to be afraid, and that they would still be husband and wife in the next life. No one was unmoved. Storytellers even compiled a tragic love story about them, spreading it everywhere. Naturally, Arthur knew the truth. I told him this was also due to father's negligence. Seeing stepmother was dying, he accidentally let slip the truth. Stepmother must have been suspicious for a long time, which was why she hid a dagger under her pillow. Arthur did not suspect anything. With the two adults of the Lynn family dead, only Autumn and I remained. After waking up from her faint, Autumn became dazed, her speech and actions were a beat slower than others, and her memory was poor. The doctor said she had suffered too great a shock, and it couldn't be cured, she could only recuperate slowly. I promoted a chamber wife of father's to be a concubine, entrusting her with managing the household and taking care of Autumn. She was originally stepmother's maid. Stepmother saw that her appearance was average and her personality meek, so she allowed her to become a chamber wife. She never bore children. Whether she harbors hatred against stepmother, or whether she will treat Autumn kindly, that is left to fate. Coming out to mix in the world, sooner or later one must pay. As for what stepmother said about finding a stable family for Autumn, that depends on destiny. Besides, with her current state, getting married might not necessarily be a good thing. Once the funerals for father and stepmother were over, I collapsed. I had to rest for more than half a month before my body gradually improved, but my heart remained heavy and unhappy. It was understandable, with parents dead and a sister turned foolish. How could one be happy? Even Madame Go felt too awkward to set rules for me at this time. However, I insisted that etiquette could not be abandoned. I persisted in paying respects to her morning and evening, rain or shine. When she ate, I served the dishes. When she changed clothes, I attended to her. If her shoulders or legs ached, I massaged them. While she stood, I absolutely dared not sit. I served her thoroughly and comfortably, and then I fell ill again. The doctor said I was overworked and too anxious, and absolutely could not continue to toil. Arthur was shocked. He didn't understand what I had to work so hard on. Only after asking the old servants beside me did he learn that every day I had to get up early to wait on Madame Go to wash and eat, and I couldn't eat breakfast until past the dragon hour. For lunch, I had to wait for Madame Go to finish before eating the leftovers. At night, I had to wait for her to rest before returning to my own courtyard. My maid sobbed. I thought once the young miss married, she would be able to eat hot meals. Unexpectedly, Arthur and Madame Go had a fierce argument. Madame Gu said. Daughter-in-law serving her mother. In-law is the law of heaven and earth. Arthur replied. She just lost her parents, and her body is just recovering. Even if she has to serve, there is no need to be so rushed. Besides, the house doesn't lack servants, why must she do everything herself? Mother, I thought you weren't like those wicked mothers-in-law. Madame Gu felt a bit guilty. She came voluntarily. I didn't force her, she came running despite being ill. Husband, don't argue with mother. It was I who proactively wanted to serve her, it has nothing to do with mother. Mother has not mistreated me, nor deliberately made things difficult. I only spoke a few sentences before I could no longer stand steadily. The maid hurriedly helped me sit down, choking with sobs. Madam, the wound on your knee hasn't healed yet, you cannot stand for long. Arthur was startled. Your knee is injured. The maid replied. A few days ago during the heavy rain, the road was slippery. We servants all advised Madam to wait for the rain to let up before going to pay respects to the old Madam, but Madam was afraid that arriving late would make the old Madam unhappy. She insisted on not delaying, and accidentally fell. Her knee is bruised, purple and swollen, very large. Li Ji, I scolded softly. Li Ji shut her mouth, but she had already said what needed to be said. Arthur's face was ashen, glancing at Madame Gu with dissatisfaction. Madame Gu was flustered. It is not like I forced her to come in the rain. That might be true, but that day when I arrived in the rain, she was clearly happier than usual, and later boasted about it to her older sisters. Madame Gu was in the wrong. Arthur didn't want to argue further and supported me back to our private courtyard. Closing the door, Arthur apologized to me. I am sorry, I said I wouldn't let you eat cold rice anymore, yet I broke my promise. He was both ashamed and heartbroken, sad to the extreme. Why didn't you tell me you were suffering grievances? We are husband and wife. I smiled gently and caressed his face. What grievances are there? In just 2 months we will leave the capital. After that, we won't be by your parents' side often. It is only natural to do a bit more now. Do not blame mother. I received a royal decree, so I cannot be molded by her like a normal daughter-in-law. It is normal for her to have some anger in her heart. It is only 2 months, as long as she calms her anger. It is worth it for me to suffer a little. Arthur was so moved he couldn't speak. He stayed awake all night, and the next morning decided we would set off early. Madame Gu disagreed, cursing me as a femme fatale who sowed discord, which only made Arthur's determination even firmer. On the day we left the capital, I went back to the Lin family to look at Autumn from a distance, which counts as knowing her fate. Concubine Lu was indeed an honest and contented person with no evil intentions, taking very good care of her, so I left with peace of mind. For the next 20 years, I followed Arthur from Jiangnan to the northern frontier, from mountains to grasslands, from lakes to oceans. He wrote travel logs and I painted, coordinating flawlessly. We were a celestial couple admired by the world. We never had children, he didn't mind, and I didn't worry. It was just that his health deteriorated day by day. One winter, he fell into the water to save me and didn't get ashore in time, leaving him with a chronic ailment. When he became too ill to hold a brush, he dictated and I transcribed. Later, when speaking became difficult, I wrote by myself. Those were places I had traveled with him, so what I wrote was no less than his. After finishing, I read it to him. He looked at me with lingering attachment, and with great difficulty, forced a sentence from his throat. Have you ever loved me? One can pretend to love someone, but one can only fake it for a moment, not for a lifetime. I sat behind him, supporting him in my arms. Sunlight streamed in through the window, dancing in the motes of dust. I seemed to return to the past. My stepmother was harsh to me, and my sister bullied me. Father turned a blind eye. The servants swayed with the wind, but I endured it all. Because I knew that sooner or later, there would be a day when he would come to marry me. As long as I married him, no one would dare bully me anymore. I waited and waited from 8 years old to 18, then to 22, past the marriageable age, yet he still did not come to marry me. Later, when my stepmother said she wanted to swap the engagement to my sister, actually, I wasn't too worried. Because he was the young Master Gu, everyone said he valued righteousness and integrity, and had noble character. I thought, how could such a person break a promise and marry someone else? Even if he were deceived, he should have come to ask me. But my young Master Gu, he asked nothing at all. Perhaps to him, it was just changing a marriage partner, but to me, it was the sky falling down. I thought and thought but couldn't understand why he treated me this way. Later I understood, it was simply that he never held me in his heart. Because he didn't value me. he wasn't in a hurry to marry. Later, it was only because he was pressured by his family that he reluctantly returned to the capital to take a wife. Marrying anyone made no difference to him. Arthur, did you know? You once forced me into a dead end. Tell me, how could I still love you? Arthur leaned in my arms. I couldn't see his face, I only saw him lift his hand slightly, seeming to want to touch my cheek. I am sorry, he said. I failed you. If there is a next life, I definitely will not agree to swap the engagement. I will marry you into my home early. We will travel the mountains and rivers together. Give me another chance. Oh, okay. I held him, saying not a word. A long time later, his raised arm finally fell down powerless. He had stopped breathing. I wiped away my tears and whispered a sentence. No. The most haunting lesson from Summer's journey is that indifference can destroy love more effectively than hatred. Arthur believed marriage was merely a duty, failing to protect Summer when she was most vulnerable. By the time he finally offered his heart, hers had already turned to stone to survive. Summer won her freedom and revenge, but the price was her capacity to love. This story teaches us that trust, once shattered by neglect, cannot always be rebuilt. To truly love someone is to stand by them in their darkest hour, not just to share in their glory after they have saved themselves. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like,